Podcasting is fun. Recording podcasts are fun and very easy to do. Let's go, caffeine. You can do it. We can do it together. Health and happiness, everyone. Welcome to the Strength and Motion Show, an online experience curated specifically for the members and fans of Strength and Motion Academy. If this is your first time listening to the show, then welcome. My name is Josh Hardy, and I will be the host for this episode today. Normally, I also have a co-host sitting next to me, Navar Paul, my business partner, and he's not here today because normally we talk about stuff, then we share a bit of stuff about health and fitness. If you are a beginner and that is your intention to learn more about health and fitness, then I definitely recommend jumping to the very beginning of this episode list or searching Strength and Motion Show on YouTube and Facebook to get access to all of those episodes where we teach those things. But today, this is more about a resource. This episode will provide value in two ways. If you are someone doing or considering our 12-week challenge, you'll have a deeper understanding of what we're doing here and what it is we're trying to achieve. If you're someone who is a part of the fitness industry in some way, we also hope that this provides as a healthy inspiration and a good standard to set when building a 12-week challenge for your client. So today is actually more about action, even though this is technically the more theory component of the 12-week challenge, which is a more practical thing. I really recommend, if you're someone who stumbled across this podcast episode as a result of listening to our other podcast, take this as a chance to use this framework to create your own 12-week challenge. Because if you are a regular of the podcast and you have been listening to most of the last 20 episodes, at least the first 5, you will know what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about a lot of the movement, and we're going to be talking about a lot of the habits that we've been discussing in all of these episodes. But what today is about and what this episode is about is making this more actionable. And we have our 12-week challenge, our 12-week protocol that is the actionable journey for our members that many of you listeners are. But for those select few that aren't, make your own 12-week challenge. Let's go to town. So 12-week challenges, what are they, when they don't work, and where they do work? I'm just going to have a quick sip of my coffee. Excuse me. Oh, I heard that in my earphones. What are they? 12-week challenges are structured programs to take people from point A to point B. In our case, the goal is to upgrade our health and fitness by paving the foundations of functional health and fitness. I have a little saying with our coaches is that when you work with a client for the very first time, you want to humanize them and then dehumanize them. What I'm getting at is generally the first 3 to 6 months of a person's journey is getting them back to baseline. Usually there's like a twist in the spine, or you're just you're leaning forward or you're leaning back. There's some sort of postural issue. There's usually some sort of like one ankle or one shoulder or wrist is more weaker or stronger than the other. And we're really working to get some certain imbalances out. We're trying to learn to get some bad habits, some poorer habits out of your lifestyle. And so we're trying to humanize you again. We're trying to train you to be more like a human. But after about that 3 to 6 month window, the client is then actually ready to now maybe enter some sports or do some new things. And what happens is if you train for sports, let's say in my case, I train for ultramarathon, I actually practice not sleeping. I actually practice running at night. That's not ideal for my sleep, but that's more ideal for the performance. I have a friend who is a powerlifter. He has more thoracic flexion. He's more crunched here because that makes him stronger to pick up really heavy things. And that's an advantage for his sport, but a disadvantage for general posture. So that's what I mean by de-optimizing and optimizing. And in the case of your first 12 weeks, if you are trying to jump back on the wagon, you're really trying to, if you're either you played sport when you were younger or you didn't play sport. If you played sport when you were younger and you have that vision yourself to be athletic in the ways that you used to be, just remember to be patient enough to set that foundation before you start adding in some of that cool stuff that you used to do when you were younger. In the same way that if you are someone that is new to the sport of just lifting or getting back into your health and fitness, also remember that there is a time that we're going to take to pave your foundation, to build good movement patterns and good strength into your body. And again, that's what our 12-week challenge is about, and what all 12-week challenges are about. When they don't work is when people have unrealistic expectations. They might be going too hard too fast. That's absolutely common thing that we find in our specific challenge. And one of my favorite is saying that one of my business mentors actually said to me, but it's called "What got you here won't get you there." The example, the actual specific example we had in one, I won't say the member because it's confidential and private, but this particular client in one of our challenges in the history of the 8 years of the business, this individual had previously done this protocol where they were on a weight loss protocol to get lean enough to do a particular, by this date. I wanted to be lean enough for this date so that when this thing happened, I was a certain type of good looking. But the strategies that they did for that were, they're quite damaging on the body because it's effectively a starvation-based diet is what happened. And when this individual came and joined our challenge, they were pre-programmed because they had experience in this unsustainable weight loss technique. It was very hard for us to ask them to eat more food because they were like, how are we supposed to eat more food and lose weight? And because they were going back to old strategy didn't work. And the reason it was told to me as my business mentor is because I used to, create my success and hit my deadlines through being stressed and through pushing a lot. And he was like, Josh, you just can't do that to yourself. You can do it in the short term, but you can't build a career out of chasing deadlines like that. So that's where that what got you here won't get you there mentality. And that really is a big factor that interferes with people's success in 12-week challenges. Another one is cookie cutter programs. There's a fine line as well because especially when in the context of our 12-week challenge where we're trying to build people back to just being a human, there are a set of rules and a framework that gets you back to a human, but we also have a level of individualization, which is what all programs should have. They should have a structure where you're following a set of rules because obviously you need a set of rules to follow, but you also need to allow for a level of fluidity so that you can have things that suit you and your specific lifestyle. So cookie cutter programs is a thing that doesn't work. And another thing that is this is a tough one. It's mental and life chaos. And the tough thing about that is sometimes we have really legitimate excuses that stand in the way of us achieving certain things in life, but we also have instances where we are too embarrassed to say that we weren't able to step up to the plate. So then we find ourselves using excuses, this was hard and that's why I didn't adhere to my training program or why I didn't X, Y, Z. So mental life and chaos is a hard one to navigate, and sometimes that is actually outside of our space as coaches if there is a lot of mental life and chaos, mental chaos going on in yourself and your life. So there's just a level of questioning and just making sure that, if we're in a sales consult, we're aware to take a person on board if they are ready to handle that. But there's also the honest conversation with yourself. Am I prepared to actually commit to something if I've got a lot going on in my life as well? There are things that make challenges work, and when they do work, it's usually when there is the support and accountability aspect attached to it, which is what we have in our challenge. Many challenges do as well. Having clear goals and expectations, that's also a really important thing to do. Once you know what you need to do, then there's no, I didn't realize is a really tough place to be halfway through a challenge. It's a really tough place to be. So it's good to be very clear and very concise on where you're doing, and so we can make easy steps moving forward. I call this taking two to tango, which is based off the saying it takes two to tango, which means both people need to play their part. There is a coach doing the guidance and the accountability and the support, but the coach can't lift the weights for that person. The coach can't slap the food out of that, the bad food out of that, or the sugar, or the alcohol, or the caffeine out of that person's hand. The person still has to step up and be willing to make the necessary changes that their coach is asking them to do. So remember, there's a bit of a surrendering to the process, which is really good. And the last one is realistic and sincere pushing. That's actually more from our behalf, is that there are times that we want you actually to push harder because we understand that there is a level of intensity that comes at certain times. Our job is to know when to push and when not to pull. When to push and when not to pull. Wow. When not to push and when to push. And then also when to pull, when not to pull. So the idea is that you are finding your edge on a regular basis. We are trying to stretch you and expand you and grow you in both a physically and psychological way, but we can't do that in too much of a way. So that's what makes it fun, because some people come into this challenge with lots of intensity, then we're like, gotta do this, gotta do that. And for those clients, we're a bit like, whoa, just dial it back. And then the other people, they're like, I don't know if I'm gonna hurt myself, I'm not too sure. And for those people, we find themselves pushing ourselves. So be aware that when we have people in these challenges, and think about where you are in this line, and be prepared that if you think, usually you know which one you are, and once you know how we're trying to coach you, you can copy that and start to coach yourself in that same manner as well. So that's when challenges do and don't work. So who should do a 12-week challenge? hopefully you've already decided that you're going to do this, but to get some clarity of some of the people that you might be sharing this space with, and you might see these people in your classes or on your journey, individuals who are seeking structure and goals. People who thrive with a structured plan and clear short-term goals can benefit from a 12-week challenge. The time frame is long enough to see significant progress, but short enough to stay focused. 90 days is a great time to go through a protocol, to do a thing, to, I'm a guy, I'm in business, I do all my quarterly planning, Q1, Q2, Q3. 90 days is a great way to write training programs, business plans, lots of progressions and training builds work in this 12-week protocol. So people who find that they like a bit of fluidity outside of their life, but you've got something you can stick to, boom, there's your 12-week challenge. If you find that you are like, man, I really wish I had some more structure in my life, find a 12-week challenge, do our 12-week challenge, or take this protocol and apply it. Yeah, if you're not doing it, do something. I'm going to sip of coffee. Bear with me for a moment. Caffeine and podcasts. Let's go. Ironically, as I'm going to talk about caffeine later. Beginners looking for a kickstart. In SMA, in our local area, probably a good 40 to 60%, that mid-range of our members are primarily looking for a kickstart. They like our gym environment because we've got no mirrors, so go team no mirrors. People that really want to get started consider themselves a white belt, where they understand that they really want to have some extra support just to get the ball rolling, so they don't make any silly mistakes and really streamline that process moving forward. So that's a lot of people that you'll be sharing some space with. You'll also might see some people looking to break plateaus, people that kind of might know what they're doing, but there's a few things that they just can't get past, and that's when they get the coach involved just to help them break these certain barriers. You'll also see people with super specific goals that are chasing certain weights or dates or experiences, like races is a big one in my space, or it's races and adventures. We've got a member training for a multi-day hike that they're just really interested in doing. So once the body's fitter, you can set bigger goals, which is really exciting for me, and I love people having goals around as well. And last one, this is a really important one, people with no major health concerns. Remember, there is that level of that cookie cutterness. There is that level of this a pre-styled journey when we have these 12-week challenges in play, and sometimes there are certain health instances that make it not really a good idea to do a challenge like this, and you're better off getting some more one-on-one or more specific support and help. Who are the people who are less likely to succeed in a 12-week challenge? As we just mentioned, people with these serious health concerns where they should probably be doing something more refined and defined for their specific health issue. That also means those prone to injury. Now, this is a tough one because I'm someone who really encourages people to challenge themselves, and a lot of injuries come when we avoid a lot of hard things. However, there is a legitimate group of people that are more prone to injury, and even people just injured. Once you are injured, you're prone to more injuries because of these compensation patterns as well. And so again, just finding your edge, and if you feel like you're not ready to push yourself in something like a 12-week challenge, maybe you're not ready for it yet. People with unrealistic expectations, again, this kind of, I guess it comes with age and it happens as you mature, but if you're still a mature human but have no idea about how health and fitness works, you can still find yourself making similar mistakes that the young ones make as well. So there is that, that's why sometimes it's a good idea to get support. And a side note, always add in, always lean on friends and family and people in your network that genuinely love the health and fitness, because anyone who loves health and fitness appreciates what health and fitness does for them, and they would love to share that with other people. Those who dislike structure and those who have really challenging relationships with food. Again, I really, really wish I could help a lot of people that have challenging relationships with food. We really do want to, and maybe in the future we can help them more. We do help people with challenges around foods, but there is a line that we have to draw, and there are some people's relationship with foods, like I guess you could call them an eating disorder. If you're close to the end of the spectrum, again, that is in the same bucket of maybe needing a little bit of extra refined support for some of those things. So that's probably a case-by-case basis, but just remember, there is a time to do things like this and there's not a time to do things like this. And hopefully you're already in it, which is why you listen to this podcast. So good. We've got a little 10 minutes before I need to. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, every 25, 30 minutes, we just reset our cameras because technology and stuff. We also, if you're a regular, we do mystery sound number 1. on our podcast deck, every time someone else uses it, there's a mystery sound. So first mystery sound. Okay, so here's here's an overview of what a 12-week challenge looks like, and then we're going to start getting into the nitty-gritty of our 12-week challenge. So common layouts for 12-week challenges are structured workouts, nutrition plans, goal setting, progress tracking, support and accountability, and educational content. Based on those things, it's usually dependent on the individual's goals is how the 12-week challenges work. In our case, as you know, our 12-week challenge is about getting people back to that baseline, getting those foundations set. So we have quite a clear idea of what the workouts would be, what the goals would look like, and what the nutrition plan should look like as well. So we have that clearly defined. So we are going to spend a bit of time talking about the ins and outs of our challenge. Obviously, being the podcast, you know that's what's coming. So this segment's obviously going to be providing value in the same two ways that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, where we're now going to be getting in this deeper understanding of what we want you to learn, what we want you to understand as a result of going through this 12-week challenge. And if you're someone who's observing this 12-week challenge from the outside, again, we're reminded to use this as a framework and take this as take it to your clients. We really want to see this. We want to be very open about what we do with our services, and we really want the industry to we want to encourage the usage of more of the same things that we do. That's why we love it. So our SMA 12-week challenge is simply, in summary, like this. It's 12 weeks, obviously, and it starts with an intro session. Intro session is you coming into the gym and you're spending time with a coach, a one-on-one. When we do that session, we do a body scan measurement. So you actually stand on a machine and you hold the handles and it sends a little electric current through the body. It's fine, you can't feel it, and it's examining how much muscle mass you have, how much fat mass you have, and a couple of other interesting pieces of information that's quite helpful for us to know. And we do your measurements, we take your progress photos, your front and your side and your back, and then we set you up on our SMA app. So we have an app inside the gym, and inside the app is where we can track your nutrition, we can set your habits, we can put your workout in there. We already have videos and programs to choose from, as well as the specific stuff that the coach will be adding into your app as well. So we're lucky enough that we have this app where we can, excuse me, that was a coffee burp. We're lucky enough to have that software available so that we can service you guys with as well. On top of that, as part of the SMA 12-week challenge, you get access to the gym and the classes is what you'll be involved in. And by doing the gym and classes, you have the ability to train on your own schedule, but you also have these classes where there's other members and coaches available that you can interact with people and start refining the work that you do as well. You also have your regular check-ins. There is the major check-in at the beginning, which is the intro, and you've got your midway scan and your scan at the very end of the challenge as well. And then you have your weekly check-ins where you're just chatting with the coach as well. Now, if you're someone who you're not doing the challenge and you're actually wanting to do your own challenge, here's some notes specifically for you. Simple is better. The aim is to make things achievable for the client. We have found, and my own personal experience is that when it comes to coaching, less really is more. When it comes to habit building and creating change within someone, especially when you're working on their mind and their body, small changes are still a lot of change for the mind and body. So gentle is generally better, the way to go. Obviously, we want to push people, but simple is the way to go. Slow progress is better than no progress. We really want to have that no days off mentality, but no days off doesn't come from pushing super hard. No days off comes from moving intelligently, figuring out a good pace to push the clients, but not too hard that they stay engaged, but they're not also hating the process as well. Using technology really transforms the value for the client, which is why we have the use of our app. That's pretty much transformed the entire business, and it's also the foundation for us when we are in the next maybe six months. Hopefully it's by the end of 6 months, we'll have our 12-week challenge fully evolved into an online model, so we can do the same things, and our check-ins will be done by Zoom. So stay tuned for that if you're someone interested in that as well. And the last thing for the coaches is that check-ins and accountability are literally 80% of the challenge. Building the relationships with the people and allowing the clients to use you in a way that they can empower themselves, if that makes sense. We're really trying to get them to stand on their own 2 feet after that 12 weeks. And we really want to instill them with some good core principles. That's why simple is better. And if those clients can walk away at the end of this challenge with those core few principles, that's a massive win. And if they can remember them for a very long time, that's an even bigger win. So that's my couple of things there. Inside our challenge, as far as this being a gym-based thing, we are looking at some few key movements. So in sport and fitness, in martial arts, you have your push, you have your kick, your strike, your sidestep, your roll, your tumble. There's certain movements you need to do. In certain sports, there is the throwing, there is the swinging. There's certain movements you have to work. In yoga, there's certain poses. Pilates, there's movements. So we have a very similar philosophy here. The reason we talk about movements and not exercises is because movements are similar. I don't know if that was seen on the camera. One of my lights just flickered at me. It strobed at me. I might even use that moment to reset my camera now that my thought's been broken. We're going to do a camera reset. We're going to do mystery sound number 2. Oh, hold on. Mystery sound number 2. Mystery sound number 3. So 2 buttons, that one. Okay.
It's ace and shade.
Oh, I hate that one. Okay. I'll be back in a moment. All right, I'm back. I've tested all the other mystery sounds and none of them are appropriate. We're doing no more mystery sounds because they all suck. So returning back to it, I was discussing the main movements. Main movements instead of exercises is, like martial arts, you have certain movements, sports, you have certain movements. What we're trying to do here at Strength and Motion Academy with our functional way protocol and our functional way philosophy is we're trying to teach people. We're trying to teach people and equip you with understandings that allow you to move and feel better. And so we're trying to create a series of progressions for you. So for example, one of these is the lunge. The lunge is a movement we want you to be good at. So lunge is when you step forward, and you can have in the gym environment, if you feel familiar, you have an exercise which is called a split squat or a static lunge, in which you 2 feet, 1 foot's in front of the other, and you just pop it up and down. Like it's called a split squat. But then that same movement is very similar if you were walking upstairs, or if you were walking backwards upstairs, or if you were walking downstairs, or walking backwards downstairs, or uphill, or downhill, or walking, or running, or pushing like a trailer or a sled, or pushing a car that's broken down. It's the legs are doing the same type of movement. So if I can get you to master a split squat or a static squat, I'm very likely going to be able to then get you to start mastering some sort of step up or moving up inclines and up hills. If I can get you standing, I can get you walking. If I can get you walking, if I can get you hiking. If I can get you hiking, I can get you jogging. If I can get you jogging, I can get you running. If I can get you running, I can get you sprinting. If I can get you sprinting, I can get you running ultra marathons. Yeah, so that's what I mean by these main movements. And we have 8. There's more movements in the world, but when we're trying to get a human back to their baseline, listen up. These are the 8. Number 1 movement. It's technically not even a movement. It's called standing posture. It's more of a category. Lol. How funny of me. How funny of me. Jesus. Sometimes I look at my notes and I'm like, what are we writing, Josh? But this is still the right thing. Standing posture is a movement pattern because it represents your body's relationship with gravity. When you stand upright, it tells a story. So if I look at you upright and I look at you from side on, they give us an idea of your general consistent emotional state, and they give us an idea of where your body is most likely to have pain based on the misalignment of the spine and the hips and the shoulders. So we want to be seeing over time, if we took a photo of you from front, side and back, if we're looking at things of like body composition, you're managing your nutrition, which means body composition is building muscle, burning fat. We can see visually a shift, an improvement in body composition. But if we also want to be seeing an increase, an improvement in posture as well, then in about 12 months, I should be able to at least start to see a change in the way your body holds itself. Ideally sooner, but 12 months is honestly a bit more realistic when we're looking at long-term postural changes. So that's a really important thing to us. Just your standing posture. That's in quotations, movement number 1. Movement number 2 is thoracic rotation. Thoracic rotation is your basically your spine's ability to twist. The thoracic is the section of the spine that all ribs attach to. So if you look at your body, just maybe a couple of inches or an inch or two above your belly button, you'll start to feel some bones start, and on the sides of those are those ribs, and those ribs travel up all the way up to generally just below where your collarbone, neck area, and that area of the spine where those ribs attach to is the thoracic spine. So I'm just sipping my coffee again. Is that thoracic spine. So that obviously rolls forward when our head comes forward. It opens up, that chest area opens up when we roll our head back. But also when we're twisting, when we're looking to the left and the right, we're turning to the left and right, or we're playing sport, when we're turning, where we've got ball sports, when we're sidestepping, or even if we're doing throwing sports where we're throwing balls and hitting rackets, or we're doing a wrestling style sport where it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu or judo when you're doing throws and takedowns. There is a lot of rotation required in the rib cage in order for those movements to be formed economically and efficiently. And in order for you just to have good, healthy posture and to be happy and to be pain-free, you also need a healthy amount of thoracic rotation. So thoracic rotations are, there's just this like kind of random twisting thing that we make you do to assess your thoracic rotation, but it's really important. Thoracic rotation, oh my God, I can't drill that enough, how important it is for people to focus on, because how much it links to your mood, your performance, your head position, your headaches, your migraines, your happiness, just every breath. I always say, every breath you take, every breath you take literally affects your entire, how you experience every single moment. Your resting heart rate is so hugely affected on your basic levels of happiness that people need a healthy amount of thoracic rotation and general just thoracic mobility in order for them to just have a better baseline for happiness. So we're not going down the rabbit hole there. We're going to leave that as number 2. Thoracic rotation is the next, in brackets, just call it twist, yeah, for your a visual, yeah. Number 3, push. Simply push. If you've listened to, I think it's episode 2, we used to talk about vertical push-pull. We talk about big 6 movements. What I'm talking about now is just the evolution of those big 6. So those big 6 are now turned into basically 8 movements. The push encapsulates what we call a horizontal push and a vertical push. So all you're doing is you're producing force in a forward direction. So if you were to stand and just push something, put your hands in front of you and push forward, that is the same movement as something like a push-up or a bench press. And also if you're pushing something like lifting something above your head, if you had to put a box up over your head onto a shelf, that would be like a shoulder movement, a shoulder strengthening like movement. So all of your pushing movements revolve around your ability to push your hands forward or up. You have pulling movements, which is movement pattern number 3, is all of your movements that pull things towards you or pull yourself up, like pull-ups and chin-ups and climbing, and rowing is another one, and even hugging, and that's where those takedown type of movements start to come with, applied with that, the pulling and the rotation together turns into a rotation, turns into a takedown or a throw or something. So pulling is the 4th category. And the last, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth movement is the last of the upper body, and this is now a hang. Because we are vertebrates, we are little chimpanzee, we are ascendants. We are ascendants of chimpanzees. No, descendants, ascendants. Doesn't matter. We're in the same line of chimpanzees and all of the primates where we used to hang. Our shoulders are very functional in the ability to hang, but because of just our general cultural lifestyles, our arms don't go overhead. And the shame about that is when our arms don't go ahead that much, what then happens is we spend less time in those happiness and celebration moments. So whether you're pseudo putting yourselves in winning positions or actually finding ways to win and celebrate, it's important that we do that, and that's why we're constantly encouraging people to hang, and we now use hang as a measurement for someone's shoulder health. So many people can't even hang. So if you can't, that's why hang is now a progression. If you can't hang, it's just how well does your arm go overhead in like the frontal or the side plane, yeah? And then we try and build you to have that mobility where you can just do that without a clicky shoulder. Many people would struggle just to do a simple arm circle without a clicky shoulder. And then you need the ability to both hang. Can you do a 60-second dead hang? And can you do a 60-second single arm dead hang? Those are really, no one needs to be at that point of single arm dead hang, but no one needs a lot of things at the end of the day. But having those as those elite benchmarks allows us to visualize and understand what the body is capable of, and we optimize it for these amazing things. We can, that's what we are. We're optimizing for movement patterns so we can bring health back to the body. The lower body, I've stopped announcing that I'm drinking coffee, by the way. I'm just sipping it. So if you just have to listen for me slurps. If I'm pausing, I'm sipping coffee. The last three is the hinge, which is the first of the proper lower body, exclusive lower body movements. The hinge is, if you're familiar with yoga, similar to a cat-cow or a Romanian deadlift. Now, if you're a fitnessy person, you just heard me say hinge and cat-cow in the same sentence, bear with me for a moment. So hinging is what I call your body's ability to fold like a birthday card. So birthday cards just fold like a V, like an A. They have that clean pivot point. When people try and touch their toes or bend forward, the way the legs move and the way the hips move, the way they're situated makes it very easy for normal, uncoordinated, unfit people to perform those movements. I'm trying to say that as someone who has not struggled with hinging most of my life, although my hip mechanics aren't great. Hinging is one of the hardest movements for the general population to get their head around, which is why it's such a common problem. And hinging relates to low back pain and pelvic floor issues and all sorts of spinal issues that move up. You can't resolve any of your spinal issues without figuring out how to hinge properly. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what the hinge is, but if you are familiar with like spinal movement, pelvis movement, pelvic floor movement, if you've in a sporting background where you've done deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, hamstring dominant lunges, even hip thrusting in a way, these are all movements revolving around the hip moving efficiently, the hip joint, which is where the legs and the top of the legs, the pelvis, bottom, the torso. That's it. I'm trying to speak layman's terms, right? Pressing, lower body pressing is like squatting, right? So if you're sitting down and you stand up, or you sit down onto the toilet, or you sit down into the car seat, that general movement pattern is what we call lower body press, which in the gym format, if you're familiar with it, is leg pressing and squatting and all sorts of squatting variations. That's a really basic human movement. And the very last one is the lunge, which I mentioned earlier in this episode. Is the lunge is a movement that transitions into walking and running, which is something we want to be developing on. So our main movements, in summary: standing posture, number 1. Number 2 is thoracic rotation. Number 3, pushing. Number 4, pulling. Number 5, hanging / overhead range. Number 6 is hinging. Number 7 is pressing, lower body pressing, which is like squatting. And number 6, which is lunging, which is basically walking and static variations of it. So those are the main movements that we're trying to develop you in our 12-week challenge. And they are really the main progressions within our with our coaching protocol, because all of these movements transition into the more sport dominant movements of push, pull, kick, run, climb. Everything we need related to running, twisting, kicking, striking, rolling, throwing, spiraling, tumbling, they all revolve around a combination of any of these 8 movements, which is where the fun starts. So we're going to touch on habits now, and then we're on the tail end of the podcast. We're going to talk about habits. We're going to talk about a couple of problems that you guys might be facing in this, how to overcome that. I'm going to wrap up, and then we're going to get to work, as in you're going to get to work doing the 12-week challenge, and I'm going to get to work editing this thing so I can get it uploaded for y'all. So rolling into habits, we use habits to make extra wins so the clients can make. We use habits. I'm obviously reading a script here. We use habits to make extra wins in the client's life outside of the gym. Nice work, Josh. We got it out. They therefore usually revolve around their lifestyle. Inside the gym, you have your training program. Outside of the gym, you have your nutrition plan and your nutrition protocol, and you have your habits. The reason I started on nutrition plan and nutrition protocol is because sometimes nutrition plans don't work, which means you give them a protocol instead. So a protocol, for example, is hit this amount of calories, or hit this protein target, or make sure you're just getting this much protein per meal, and then just eat intuitively for the rest of those. So just make sure you're having your steak and your chicken and your protein shake, but then have some salads and some fruit around that. So protocols are more just giving a person rules to abide by, because some people's brains don't want a plan and they will self-sabotage. So that's what I mean by protocol. Sometimes we use a protocol, sometimes we use a meal plan. Depends on the person. So in our challenge, we have we're in our challenge, habits are decided on individually. I must have been rushing when I wrote this. Sometimes I'm going to look off the script. In our challenge, habits are decided individually. They are decided individually, but we actually have a preset list of habits to choose from, which are revolved around the 4-pillar approach: movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress. When you're working with yourself or working with a client, we recommend the rule of 3 habits and 3 habits only, which when you're at the beginning of the journey, generally more kind of global strategies work, as in like drinking water is not, I wouldn't say drink a glass of water in the morning is a habit, but I'd say stay hydrated, or I would say walk every day, or I'd be like gym 3 times a week, like big bang for your buck stuff. A client said to me the other day, she goes, can I put supplements as a habit? And I said, sometimes you can. In your case, no, because you're still a beginner. I don't want you prioritizing. I don't want you freaking out about supplements. I want you focusing on just like getting to bed on time, getting your gym days in, and hitting your protein target, because for her, those are the things that are going to get her across the line. But if she's sacrificing her focusing on hitting a protein target so she can eat a omega-3 tablets, she's not going to get anywhere. So that's what I mean by there is a preset list, but there's a bit of wiggle room as well to make things work for you. So despite having preset list, I'm going to rattle off some of the most common ones that we find ourselves consistently using off this preset list. These are hitting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. The next one is nutrition tracking, such as like examples of food journaling, tracking food in our app, or using things like MyFitnessPal, really good. Light exposure management, that's more around sleep and stress management, so navigating how much light you're exposing yourself, especially through your mobile phones. Alcohol and substance management, obviously that's a pretty obvious one. Whether that's mental health related or like sugar and fitness related, there's usually some sort of management that's needed to be done there. Sugar management is another one. Caffeine management. People are either over consuming caffeine, or they're not. They're drinking it too late. That's another one. Ironically, as I drink sip coffee at 2:49 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm going rock climbing after this. I'm going to go climb some rocks because that's my functional training after this. That's why I've got anyway, I'm cheating. My rule is no caffeine after 12, and I'm drinking caffeine on a Saturday, but it's kind of anyway, stop justifying things, Josh. You're in the wrong. Next one is hydration targets. That's a very common one. Hydration targets are one of 2 things. If I train clients like myself, which are usually not you guys, my hydration targets are all based around electrolytes and are some sport supplements that I make my clients take because of the high volume that they're doing. But for most of you guys, it's actually just making sure that you hit your probably 2 to 4 liters of water each day. I usually set Nav sets 4 liters. I set 2 liters. I really prefer people to drink 4 liters, but I push my clients harder when they lift. That's usually how people come to me, because I've got that personality. So I find myself just putting more energy into pushing them through that rather than drinking fluids. But hydration targets are super important. You'll be surprised how much better your body and digestion feels as well. If you're having mobility and fat loss issues, get on the water, straight up. Phone/airplane mode, that's another one. I use the phone 60-minute rule because I break it every day myself. But my favorite rule is the 60-minute phone rule, which is 60 minutes before bed and 60 minutes upon waking is airplane mode. Just don't even touch don't even touch the thing, because it's for the sake of mental health, it's very fascinating how much the brain responds to such a heavy stimulus first thing in the morning. My only little tweak I allow my clients to do is I'll let them do like Spotify on airplane mode, because some people I'm a bit like, play some music, like play some tunes when you wake up in the morning. If a lot of time people feel a bit groggy, and people who are very kinesthetic, they like to be very feel orientated. I like to give them a couple of, wake up in the morning and get jivey. So I want people to start their day invigorated. Yeah. So that's when I coach people, that's what I chuck in there as well. Walking is a common habit. The clients I was talking about before, they're on a walking and a stretch routine together. They're a couple. Walking's great for many reasons. You can have, you can podcast, you can music, you can just have it in silence, you can just walk the dog, mental health, whatever, physical. There's just so many benefits for it, and you can use walking in different stages of your life to deal with different problems. You can use walking I use walking all the time to solve my business problems. I just go for a walk and I'm like, okay, what am I dealing with? Oh, okay, boom, 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 because I've got that space and that clarity. But sometimes I just want to keep the body moving as well. So walking, so good. These usually tie into morning and nighttime routines as well. Morning and nighttime routines usually have a series of habits at the beginning and the start of the day, like the phone, like the walking, like the light exposure management, the caffeine management. They all come into play there. So morning and nighttime routines are a great way to kind of action that. And the last one is mental health routines. Reflecting, journaling, meditating, those are common things we put in our morning routine. Just in our general habits list. So as a reminder, we go 3 habits maximum per client, and then once you're feeling a rhythm, then you allow yourself to move into a new habit. And in summary, again, just to rewrap those ones, these are the most common ones we find ourselves using: hitting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, nutrition tracking, such as food journaling, tracking food in the app, light exposure management, alcohol and substance management, sugar management, caffeine management, hydration targets, phone/airplane mode, walking, morning and night routines, mental health routines like journaling and meditating. A couple other ones I'll just chuck in there if you are interested in there. Some movement habits are always revolved around training and performance targets, stretching targets, or adding in recovery days, saunas, ice baths, massages. For nutrition, common ones we see are meal prep Sundays, hitting hydration targets, protein targets, nutrition targets, sugar management, and calorie management, just how much food you're eating overall. Sleep ones commonly are light management, morning and nighttime routines, supplement management, whether that's using supplements to deload, like magnesium and ashwagandha, if you've heard of those. Just supplements really help people de-stress before they go to sleep. Just general nutrients as well, caffeine management, and then sleep hacks, which are sleep hacks are quite good. I'm actually a big fan of sleep hacks, which is using guided meditations, using routines, and having supplements, and using doing strategic light exposure to really get the body wound down, and some breathing techniques are really good. Big fan of sleep hacks as well. And then as far as stress goes, stress honestly is more about finding ways to stress yourself deliberately so you've got better ability to regulate your nervous system. But the other half is that's just finding time to be happy. Like, got to make time to be happy, and then that kind of refills your cup up. And then stress is more bearable. Stress never seems to go away, but stress is bearable when your happiness cup is, you're just happier. So that's what we talk about in stress. So what we're going with is mental health routines, such as reflecting, journaling, meditating, nervous system regulation, like ice baths, saunas, and breath work, that they teach you to handle stress better. Personal development, just learning and studying, that's very fulfilling for people, and it gives people ways to just navigate some of their problems and challenges. Making time to be happy. Who would have known? Make some time to be happy, and it makes things easier. And for me, and I think I'm big on this one. I don't know if most coaches would, I think they would actually, but serving others and or serving yourself. So I'm very big on having a deeper reason to live, and chasing goals worth chasing, and I'm a big believer, I won't go too deep in it, but things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, it's all these like Ikigai, these books that you may have heard of. I'm a big fan of just being driven by some sort of deeper cause that makes us want to contribute to the people around us. As part of my language, who gives a fuck what the cause is as long as we're doing it? That, especially after listening to the Ikigai book, which is a book that studies one of the blue zones in Japan. Blue zone's a place where there's a high amount of centenarians, people that live over 100 years, and one of their two biggest things in the Ikigai book was gardening and community, which they come hand in hand, because the garden gives the reason to get up and move, which is the new gym and the workout, but then it keeps them engaged with trade and working with others. So that's why I'm big on serving others and serving yourself, because once you're retired, what do? Garden. So to wrap up, common problems people face. This is just so that most of these are actually dealt with within the challenge. We're trying to help you overcome these, but when you face these, they are normal. Lack of motivation, we all face it. Time management, we've all got stuff going on. Nutritional challenges, especially Western world, it's quite sugar everywhere, and we're very seduced into convenient food options, which is it's a little bit of the devil, to be honest, when it comes to taking control of your health and fitness. And if you're really going for that upgrade, the world's against you when you're trying to take control of your mental health and your nutrition. So physical, the gym is sometimes the easy stuff. Nutritional challenges, physical limitations, injuries and fatigue is a big one. That comes with your stress management, your nutrition management, and mental barriers, self-doubt, stress, lack of confidence. They're all super big ones as well. Good coffee. I'm excited to go climb rocks. Fake rocks. I'm going bouldering. If anybody knows, boulders and burgers, I've called it. We're going to go climb boulders, indoor rock climbing, and do some burgers. So that is the episode. That's pretty much 45. Bang on. Go team. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. It's been nice. Different being alone without Nav, I'll be honest, but was good. It was nice to spend some time with you. Appreciate you all, and would love some feedback on this. If you see me in the gym, say hello. Say it's nice to listen to your voice, Josh. Hopefully it was, and we look forward to making lots of fantastic episodes in the future. The next couple are going to be resource based because we want to make resources for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And I will see you will hear me in the next episode. Hypothetical fist bump for Nav. Boom. All right. Ciao. Buongiorno. 2:58. He's just fucking done it, bras.